On the 4th of January 1967, Donald Campbell was killed when his jet-powered hydroplane Bluebird took off, somersaulted and smashed into the water surface at 300 miles an hour. With 8 feet smashed off her front end, plus both of her sponsons gone, what was left quickly filled and sank, leaving just a wisp of steam to mark the spot.
Don't go to base. Complete accident, I'm afraid, Hogarth.
34 years later, the Bluebird Project dive team would locate the wreck 40 metres down on the bed of Coniston Water and send divers and ROVs to inspect the wreckage and find out what had become of this iconic machine. The right-hand end of the main spar, where once a sponson was bolted, the side of the hull, buried deep in the mud. A small inspection panel from alongside of the engine, still fastened shut. And although blistered and faded, the 2 Bluebird emblems on the rear flanks were still visible for what they were. The Bristol Siddeley badge only fitted in 1966 when the Orpheus engine went in. Bluebird's life as an Orpheus-powered craft was to be tragically short. And a jet pipe cooling duct, again only added in 66 for the Orpheus engine. And a few remnants of the final iteration of Bluebird's spray baffles still clinging to the smashed wreckage. The torn open air intakes testifying to the sheer violence and destruction in the crash. And perhaps the most haunting of all is the end of the seat harness. Of the 4 fixing points, 3 tore loose, with only one hanging on. The Navy cut it free and removed it from the wreck, still in its fastened condition. The high tensile steel steering shaft snapped like a carrot. Bluebird's offboard instruments on the side of the engine cover. The fuel boost pressure frozen in time at 5 psi. And another small human touch, Bluebird's fuel filler cap fastened shut for the final time by somebody before the last run. The inlet lip torn backwards a good 2 feet from where it used to be. And heading aft along the top of Bluebird's hull, past the little vents that once blew fresh air through the engine compartment to get the fumes out. But despite the mud and the corrosion and having been left forgotten for 34 years on the bottom of the lake, Bluebird remained defiant. There's one thing she had managed to do perfectly all this time, and that was to sit absolutely bolt upright and still fly her Union flags, very proudly, for all that time, in the dark with no one to see them. By March 2001, Gina Campbell had decreed that Bluebird and all the associated material would be lifted from the lake to avoid risk to life and limb after a near fatal accident to one of our divers. So we turned up with a salvage barge, a mountain of equipment and a big team, the intention being to recover Bluebird from the depths of Coniston Water. Our first mission was to secure a downline into the wreck. We tied this in securely to the right-hand end of the main spar. With the downline in place, all our divers could just go to and from the wreck easily and with the least waste of gas and effort and energy, because what we had to do next was to rig lifting strops to the hull. 2 at the front, 2 at the back. The front ones would go around the root of the main spar, and the ones at the rear would be dug through the mud down to the tethering points at the back. And once the strops were attached to the spars, they were then lifted up and attached to a pair of lifting frames far above. And these would allow us to lift from a central point whilst having the strops spread far enough that they'd never dig into the bodywork. We built the frames in-house, and we very seriously over-engineered them. We had no idea how much pull it was going to take to get this thing out of the mud. What the documentaries never convey is just how dark it is down there, and how much sediment gets kicked up, and how quickly the sediment gets kicked up. And you're working in the cold. We were down there in March and it was freezing, and we're fixing shackles and rigging strops and trying to film it all for safety and work in these conditions and using helium in the breathing mixes, which messes with your body temperature and you freeze. It was tricky. And the strops were getting damaged. They were getting hung up on pieces of sharp wreckage and we're having to strip them off and replace them. And every time a storm blew up above and moved the barge and strained all the moorings, everything would get tangled below and we'd have to put the ROV down to look at it. And then having found the problems, we then have to put a diver down to come and fix it. Trying to rig the front end for a lift and keep the rest of the strops untangled was a full-time occupation. But we stayed across it, and we did it. The wreck was at this time still very deeply buried in the mud. You can see the mud line came up to the Bluebird emblem, and the strop on the right was dug through the mud, completely blind, and the shackle fixed to the lifting point, way below. At this point in our diving careers, most of us were on closed-circuit mixed gas rebreathers, which was a bit of an emerging technology in the sport diving community then, but it allowed us to do longer, deeper dives with less decompression, especially in the cold. And at the end of each dive, we'd make our slow way back up to daylight, up to 6 meters for the longest stop. And the ROV would come in and annoy us, and Zadie had 2 tricks for dealing with it. One was to blind it, and if it still didn't go away, he'd just grab it, turn it upside down, clip his torch on it, and let it go. The time finally came to put a pull on it, and Brian, our commercial diver, ran the topside. We rigged the hydraulic crane and started to take up the strain, and things began to move. Everyone watched with bated breath on the remote monitors, transmitting pictures from 40 metres below as the crane took up the strain.
Keep going. Start moving again, mate.
And the silt moved and boiled, and the blue paint seemed to move.
That's good. That's some movement there.
That's it.
Until eventually there was no question. Bluebird was definitely coming out of the mud.
First time in 34 years she's on the move.
Right, keep it coming nice and slow, easy.
Oh yes, it's out. It's out, it's out.
4.5.
And now we could see parts we'd never seen before, shapes we'd never seen before. the fluted underside, and the blue paint preserved below the mudline and the rivets. And we could also see the angle to which we'd pulled the hull, and the whole front end was up and out of the mud. But had she survived this? We had no idea. Had the main spar moved? Had the material started to crack? Had the metal started to fail? We didn't know. This was our big concern. And we got under the spars to find out whether anything had moved. We had no idea whether this structure could handle these sort of loads. And we made a very thorough inspection of it, and it all seemed to be well. But it turned out that Bluebird had thrown another gotcha our way, and one that we'd have to fix before we'd ever stand a chance of getting the hull onto its launch and recovery cradle to get it out of the lake.
Bottom end of the cockpit is bent down almost to the mud level.
This was a bit of a setback, and one we'd not even contemplated. But we had to fix it, because the whole endeavour relied on the fact that the bottom of Bluebird is flat as a billiard table, and the equipment that we'd built to get it out of the lake relied on it being flat as a billiard table. So we were going to have to find a way to get all this ragged and torn material up and out of the way before we could finish our mission. But we get to that. With the ROV inspection complete, it was time to go down in the hard hat and have a proper visual inspection. It's lovely diving in the hard hat. You can talk to your friends up top. Your breathing gas is supplied in limitless quantities down a pipe. It's a lovely, warm and cosy space. And the inspection confirmed what the ROV had said. The spar hadn't budged. We'd pulled on it. We'd pulled the front out of the mud with it, but it hadn't moved. After all these years, Bluebird was still solid. It was time to get the rest of the divers down, because we had to get on with the second part of our mission, and that was to properly rig the strops to the rear end, which of course had come loose when we moved the front. It all had to be rejigged, retightened, set up. And again the silt got kicked up, again the visibility went to nothing. But everybody got stuck in to get the back end rigged, because soon we were going to put a pull on that next. Brian's team topside had rigged the downlines, the lifting lines, into 5 metre bights, all shackled together, so we could put a lift bag 5 metres down and pull, and no matter how hard the bags pulled, they could never go out of control, because they never had more than 5 metres of lift available to them at any one time, and they extended from the surface from all the way down to the lifting frames. And with a final thumbs up from Zadie, it was time once more to leave the bottom and see if we could pull the back end of the wreck out of the mud now. Again we rigged the hydraulic crane, and we heaved and we strained on it, and we watched the monitors to see what was going to happen. But Bluebird wasn't done with us yet. She wasn't going to move this easily. She had another little treat in store for us.
You know?
I don't think he'll do it, mate.
No. Situation is that whereas the front pulled straight out of the mud, because it had landed tail first and settled gently, the front came straight back out. The back is about 1 metre under the mud, and it's not giving in quite as easily.
We decided at this point we needed to rig a lift bag. This is a 2-ton open-ended lift bag. It's open-ended, so as the air inside expands, it can bubble out as the bag rises, and it never gets tired, and it never gets weak, and it never stops pulling. It just puts 2 tons of pull in there forever and a day. Until, at long last,
There it goes. You got it! You got it! Yeah, keep going, keep going! Oh, dear me. That's it, the base is gone. She's out.
Wait while it's cleared.
We've got the boat hanging about
He's doing that one
5
first,
metres off the lake bed,
Is he on here now?
on 2 bags. It's all exciting stuff.
Despite the rigging of ropes, our torn down floor was still a proper menace. Bluebird's main planing surface, seen from beneath, immaculate after 34 years preserved in the mud. The hydraulic water brake fully deployed, not as we first thought as an act of trying to get out of trouble, but put down by stored hydraulic pressure. And Bluebird's rudder locked permanently in a left-hand turn. We spent a lot of time inspecting the rigging with the ROV, just to make sure nothing moved, nothing was coming loose, nothing was in danger of failing or falling. And when we came around the corner we found this, a little registration plate that no one knew existed. An especially poignant view. Bluebird's power turbine, taken from white heat to freezing cold in a deluge of lake water, locked and seized, never to turn or feel the heat of combustion again. Now all that remained was to carry on with the lift. 5 metres at a time, shackle in a bag onto the next joint, and then lift 5 metres and shackle in the next bag, until eventually we'd lifted Bluebird to within 5 metres of the surface, and back to the daylight that she'd not seen in 34 years. This was the culmination of a week's worth of dives. We now had Bluebird hanging on two 2-ton bags 5 meters below the surface, and at this depth there was plenty of daylight. You didn't need a torch, and anybody could dive and have a look and check the strops and check the rigging. We did a bit more work on that tiresome floor and got that tied up a bit further. It still wasn't perfect. We'd have to finish that when we got to the end. But before that, we had to get the boat off the 2-ton bags because they were open at the bottom, and you can't tow those. They'll fall over and the air comes out and the thing will go back to the bottom. So we spent the next day rigging 4 1-ton closed bags. These ones are sealed and they don't fall over when you pull them, and we had to get that done because we knew that very shortly this was it. We had to try and get this thing out of the water once and for all. The story goes that we worked into the night and were still on the barge at 4 in the morning. It's not entirely true. We spent most of the evening in the bar at the Sun Hotel plotting and scheming how to do this, where it didn't rain, it wasn't windy, and we weren't freezing cold, and then we went back to the barge at 4 in the morning.
He's going to go in backside first. When we get down there, if you can get yourself so you're ready to take the line off us and just hold her off while Richard gets himself sorted with a
What
barge.
you doing about navigation?
That's what you're here for, mate. Bright light. Bright lights!
Happy days.
Today.
Of course, we weren't the least bit nervous. No, not us. Not a chance. Yikes. And to make matters worse, the press had arrived. All of them, it seemed.
Okay, it's all yours, Bill. We're going now to more.
At this point, Predator took charge of Bluebird, suspended under the closed bags while the barge was put in position.
When we get in, when the barge gets in position, we'll bring the boat between the jetties. Right. If you can fire up the ROV and get it in the water, we need a survey of the lake bed before the back bags are deflated, in case there's any rocks under the hull.
Fine. Yeah.
We watched from a short way off while the barge was positioned and fastened in place on its steel legs, which ruined the visibility and made the ROV work difficult. But we stood off for a bit, and then once we're happy, we passed the whole thing back to the barge.
Absolutely perfect.
And with Bluebird secured alongside the barge, the divers went in yet again to do one final battle with that floor. As we readied ourselves on the surface, the divers toiled below, but eventually they got that floor tied up. And the next job was to let the air out of the bags, put Bluebird on the bottom, tie the bags directly onto the wreck, and then blow them again. This was to be it. This is the big one.
Are we excited?
Are we just?
Are we ever?
A couple of times we got glimpses at bags, and Brian expertly worked the manifolds to deliver air to this bag and then that bag. But no matter what we tried, she wasn't going to come up. She was fighting us to the last. The guys moved the barge a little further away to make sure the Bluebird didn't come up and smash into its underside. The divers went in again to make sure it had all been done as we envisaged. And then the bags were refilled again. The front two came up straight away, but there was no way to tell where the back two were going to appear.
Holy shit! Pull some more of that ass.
Those are the two bags.
They stand by, lads. Just there, right?
At the top of the tail.
Crumbs.
Here she
Here
goes.
comes.
And then, just wow.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, absolutely brilliant. Okay, turn the valves on. Open the valves up.
As the bags filled, Bluebird rose higher and higher in the water. And then there was a frantic dash to make sure that none of the sharp wreckage that had savaged the lifting strops would savage a bag and upend the whole thing and send it straight back to the bottom.
Just push those backs to one side, Chris.
We need to bring it around this side. Can we pull on those hoses and bring the fire around? That is awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I don't believe it.
At this point, Tonya Byrne Campbell, Donald's widow, came out to join us on the barge.
Oh, wonderful.
Brought her back.
You brought her back. The bird is back.
She's kept well.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Where's the cockpit? Right there.
Yeah, right there.
Is the cockpit broken open?
It's just gone. Yeah, it's as if it was
Yeah,
just
he's
chopped.
out of it.
Oh, he's not in
You
there.
were shut out.
Tonya's great concern was that Donald would still be in there, but he wasn't. We knew that.
She is.
There's the bird.
Incredible.
And then I want to disconnect the hoses, get the hoses free.
Think Donald would have enjoyed all this?
Yes. It's unbelievable after 34 years. It's unbelievable.
At this point, I asked Tonya whether she would allow me to stand on Bluebird's deck as the boat was recovered from the water, just as Donald used to do. It was for a sound reason back then. It was to get the boat squarely onto the cradle, but he always did it. And I asked whether today I could take his place. Tonya thought for a moment, and she said, yes, I think you should take his place today. And so with Tonya's kind permission, and with absolute and utmost respect for what I was about to do, as the boat began to move, I climbed up on the after deck.
When the tail fin first popped out of the water and I realised that we'd dragged it up into this world, I was actually quite horrified. And the first thought was, put it back. It shouldn't be here. But we knew that we'd effectively written a little bit of history, or rewritten a little bit of history. And it was very, very real at that point.
And as Tonya had assured us that Donald would be loving all this press interest and the crowd's attention and all the razzmatazz, we felt celebratory. It was a celebration of a job well done, of a project well handled by everyone concerned, and people came from all over the country in different disciplines to do this. A celebration that Bluebird had finally completed that run that you started on the 4th of January 1966. And a celebration of Donald Campbell, because this was the closest any of us had ever been to him. And I think probably Brian put it the best.
Absolutely over the moon, mate. Absolutely. It's nice to see you. We knew it'd come, but it's just nice to see it all the same, isn't it?
Yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Robbie. What have we done? Oh dear.
Press it now.
That was 25 years ago. Quarter of a century, quarter of our lives if we get to live to a grand old age. But sadly, two of our divers are no longer with us, two of our old mates, Graham Woodfine and Carl Spencer. So, a nod to them, and we'll see you at the big cocktail party in the sky, guys. Au revoir.